Good morning, everyone. As we let everyone come into the room, we just want to say welcome for joining us today for our day 2 of the 2025 UCR Staff Conference. We're thrilled to have you. A few helpful notes as in case you've never attended an event on Zoom or actually use Zoom events, each session is being recorded and we will post the sessions on the UCR Staff Assembly YouTube channel. Keynote presentations, unfortunately, will be posted onto the UCR LMS site. If you would like closed captions for the session, please click on the Show Closed Captions button at the bottom of your screen. While we can use the chat to interact, please submit your questions using the Q&A feature, not the chat. This allows other folks to vote for questions, and then those questions get pushed to the top and more likely to be answered. It also gives everybody the opportunity to be anonymous if they choose. So as people are coming in, I just want everyone, as always, to be mindful of the UCR's principles of community. And with that, it is my pleasure to introduce Rosemary Tyrrell. Rosemary Tyrrell, EDD, is currently the Director of the Office of Faculty Development and an Assistant Professor in the Department of Social Medicine, Population and Public Health at the University of California, Riverside School of Medicine. Dr. Tyrrell oversees a 6-person unit that provides hundreds of faculty development programs and services to support excellence in teaching. Her unit has primary responsibility for curriculum mapping and educational technology. Dr. Tyrrell chairs and serves on a number of committees, including the LCME Standard 9 Committee and the Teach Pro team, Teaching Excellence and Course Enhancement. Her duties also include overseeing the Administrative Fellowship Program at the School of Medicine. Dr. Tyrrell, please take it away.
Thank you so much. It's exhausting just hearing that introduction. I didn't realize I was doing so much. Thank you, everyone, for selecting this session. I am so honored that you are with me today. Thank you so much for attending. And my session today is about flipping the script, which means how we cultivate a growth mindset in ourselves and others. And let me add to that introduction that I've been here at UCR School of Medicine for about 8 years. And UCR is my first school of medicine, but I've been doing faculty development and teaching and scholarship around teaching and learning for more decades than I care to admit. So this is an area that's very near and dear to my heart, the mindset. I've been following this work for a long time, a very long time. So just today, this is just a quick agenda for what I hope we can have time to cover today in our 45 minutes together. Just a discussion of what mindset is, why it matters, flipping your own internal script and supporting growth mindset in others. And then I hope you'll have some practical takeaways. Because I'm an ed person, I always have to talk learning objectives. So by the end of this session, I hope you'll have an opportunity to define the concept of growth mindset and differentiate it from a fixed mindset. That you'll be able to identify examples of fixed mindset thinking in your own professional experience, and that you'll be able to apply strategies to shift internal narratives, both for yourself and others, to encourage growth-oriented thinking. And then practice using growth mindset language to support colleagues, teams, and of course yourself and your own professional development. Now, next what I'm going to do is something called a waterfall. And I don't think I've ever had this many people in a session when I've done this before, but we'll try it. So if you've never done a waterfall, the way it works is I'm going to ask you to answer this question in the chat, but don't hit enter. So you just type it in, don't hit enter. And when I say 1, 2, 3, go, everybody hits enter at the same time and all the comments come in like a waterfall. So just what is your personal definition of mindset? Go ahead and take a moment to put your answer in the chat. Give you a second to do that. And then I'm going to count 1, 2, 3. and then everybody will hit at the same time. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, enter. Boom, worked great. Thank you. So mental acuity, how I react, clear, concise thinking. It's an attitude you have about yourself and the world. Perspective, the way we think and approach things. A way to approach the outside world, daily activities, how I feel about a certain situation, and so on. All great answers. So, what is mindset? There's a number of ways we can define it. One is that it is really beliefs we hold about our abilities and our own potential. And again, many of you said this, that it's a person's attitude and beliefs or ways of thinking about things. We could say that it's a state of mind that influences how people think. And we could also say that it's a set of beliefs that shape how you make sense of the world around you. So mindset influences how we think, how we feel, and how we behave in any given situation. So it's a powerful thing. Now, many of you may already be familiar with Carol Dweck and her work on mindset. So if you're not, let me just share that Carol Dweck is a Stanford professor who's been doing work in this field for decades, and she's written books and et cetera. And I've been following her work for a long time. She did most of her research in K through 12 education. However, since she's been at it a long time, other people have done a lot of research in this related to higher education and even medical school education, and they have found exactly the same things to be true. So this is all based on her work. So, and I always feel a little guilty talking about Carol Dweck's work in a short in a short little session like this and just a handful of slides, because like I said, she's literally been doing this for a long time, but this is the time we have. So I want you to think about, if you're familiar with it, bear with me. If you're not, she basically says that there are two forms of mindset: a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. So before I talk about which is which, understand that we're not that simplistic of beings. So you aren't born with it on your forehead that you have a fixed or growth mindset, that you may have a fixed mindset in one part of your life and a growth mindset in another. So let's talk about what they are. Well, people with a fixed mindset, they believe at their core that their intelligence, talents, and abilities are fixed. They're static. They're not going to change. And so that, I'm just was born this way. So the challenge with that is people with a fixed mindset tend to avoid challenges. They tend to give up easily. So when they encounter barriers to something, they tend to give up. They feel like effort is useless, or worse than useless, because if you look at it in an education context, if I think it shows that I'm smart if I can do something really quickly. So if it takes me time to do something, then it challenges my perception about myself, and so I don't want to go there. One of the studies that she did that I've always found really fascinating is she did this with children, and they did this research study where they were handling puzzles. And at the end, they said to the kids, to thank you for being part of this study, we want to give you a puzzle. And the kids with the fixed mindset, she said, you can have a puzzle, the one that you've already worked on and know how to do, or a new puzzle. And all the kids with a growth mindset were like, well, give me a new puzzle. Why would I want one that I already know how to do? And all the kids with a fixed mindset wanted the puzzle they already knew how to do, because they didn't want it to seem effortful, right? Also tend to ignore feedback and sometimes even resent feedback when it's given. And they often feel threatened by the success of others. Whereas the growth mindset is kind of on the other side of the equation. If people with a growth mindset believe that intelligence or their skills or their talents in a particular area can be developed. And people with a growth mindset embrace challenges. They want something. Like the kids were like, why would I want a puzzle I already know how to do? Give me another one. Give me one that's harder. They persist in the face of setbacks, and they see effort as the path to mastery. They learn from feedback and often will seek out feedback if they feel like they're not getting enough. And they're inspired by the success of others. If someone else can do it, then so can I. As again, I said, it isn't a question of either someone is a fixed mindset or a growth mindset. One of the best places we see this is in high school. So you may have a student who has a fixed mindset when it comes to their math class. They don't even try. They don't do the homework. They don't do the assignments because they're like, I'm just not good at math. But that very same student might be on the basketball court every single afternoon because in basketball, they know that effort is the path to mastery. But in math, somehow they think effort will make no difference. So we all have fixed and growth mindsets around different topics and different issues. So the individual with the fixed mindset, one of the challenges here now is they may plateau early and achieve less than their full potential, confirming that deterministic view. So if I avoid things that are difficult, and then when I do try them, I give up really easily, and I feel like I shouldn't have to try hard, well, obviously, I'm going to plateau. I'm not going to really stretch myself. People with a growth mindset reach higher levels of achievement, giving a greater sense of free will and a greater sense that they control their own destiny. So why does that matter? Well, in a corporate and institutional capacity, 88% of executives who were interviewed agreed that growth mindset was critically important for organizational success. So leadership sets the example from the entire organization. So when leadership and management embrace a growth mindset, it trickles down through every level of the organization. So why does it matter? Well, it improves self-esteem to have a growth mindset. It reduces that sense of imposter syndrome. And if you don't know what that is or haven't heard that term before, that's when people start to feel like, well, I'm not really, I don't really belong here. We see that sometimes in medical students. If they're especially from an underrepresented group, they don't see a lot of people who look like themselves. They don't see all those pictures on the wall with old white men. And they're like, I don't belong here. This isn't me. This isn't who I am. That's called imposter syndrome, and we all suffer from it in many ways. And that it improves, expands the person's ability to learn and adapt to new things. Mindset also increases performance. It builds resilience, obviously, because if you see effort as the path to mastery, you're going to keep trying even when it gets hard. It strengthens personal relationships and it boosts your well-being, which is what I said over here. These are valuable traits, regardless of where your career takes you, whether it remains in educational administration or takes you to a different field entirely. These are valuable traits to develop. So let's look at what constitutes a fixed mindset. And here's just some examples. So again, we talked a little bit about that person might avoid difficult tasks, trying to get rid of them and pass them on to someone else. They might be blaming other people for their own mistakes. And they may resist feedback. So if you're trying to give them feedback, they get defensive or are not accepting of that feedback. And they lack a sense of self-improvement. You don't see them, moving up and getting better. They may suffer from a fear of failure because if you have a fixed mindset, things that come easily prove your worth. So if I can do this easily, Carol Dweck says in her book that one of the worst things a parent can say to a child is if a child comes home and say, look, Mom, I got an A on my test. One of the worst things to say to them is, oh, great, you must be really smart. So we'll talk more about fixed mindset strategies later, but what she's saying is you're equating that they succeeded with being smart. And she said the better thing to say is, oh, hey, Ma, I got an A on my test. Oh, that's great. You must have worked really hard. That's growth mindset, that you achieved that, not that it's fixed, that you either are or are not smart. And that fear of failure comes from, what happens then when you tell a child having an A means you're smart if they come home with a B, that you're not smart. That's the problem. They often don't seek mentorship because, again, they don't see the value in trying for new things. They focus on results over effort. And again, that perfect example that Carol Dweck gives in her book about not saying, you must be really smart because you got an A. They tend to be more negative in their communication styles. They tend to not set clear and measurable goals. And they tend to give up easily, which we already said. So when do we hear this in ourselves? And these are some of the things that you might hear yourself saying. So think about when you've heard yourself say these things, or when you've heard others that you work with say these things. I can't do this. I'm just not good at technology. This is just too much for me. I can't handle it. I'm too old for this. I was born without the, technology gene. I heard people say that. That's fixed mindset language. It's something that is permanent. So what we try to do with mindset is add that magical word of yet. I can't do this yet, which means, yes, I'm incapable of doing it right now. But if I put in the effort, if I do the learning, I could master this. That's the difference between fixed and growth mindset. So here's just some examples, and don't worry, I'm not going to read all of this to you, but I'm happy to make the slides, and the recording will be available so you can pause it and read through all this. But just taking the first couple of ones, I'm going to go with number 2, the challenges. This project is too hard. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to avoid it. It's a mistake. Oftentimes, by the way, supervisors give people hard projects that are a little outside of their reach to help develop them so that they're ready to move up the ladder and ready for promotion. Instead, a growth mindset way of responding to that is, this project is difficult, it is challenging, but I can figure it out if I get the right support, if I put in enough effort, if I learn. Those, again, it's too hard for me yet. I can't do it now, but if I do these things, I will be able to master it. So now I want you to flip the script, and it's your turn. So what do I mean by that? There's this QR code. I'm going to ask you to click on that. And behind that QR code is a Google Doc. As soon as everybody's had a chance to take a picture of that QR code, I'm going to move that Google Doc on the screen so everyone can see it. And I've got the fixed mindset terms here. And I just want you to take a moment to try to move into this. So here's the document, and just type in what you think a growth mindset statement would be to address that. So again, let's just off for a minute to give you a chance to click on the QR code. Is a QR code working? And then just come in here and flip your script. What would you say instead of this? It says you need permission. Okay, I'm sorry. Why is it private? Because it says private only to me. Well, this was a good idea. So
Rosemary, I believe if you put share,
I did.
it'll allow it, yes, and then you can change the restricted to
No,
anyone
I
with the
want
link.
this open to anyone with the link.
There you go.
Done. Let's try that again. Are you able to access it now? Oh, the URL. Yep, I can put that in the chat. Just give me a minute to work out the tech here. Oh yeah, I'm seeing lots of people jumping on now. Thank you. See, I didn't have it right yet, but I was able to persist. And just thoughts that you have about how you might flip the script and say this differently. Are you able to make edits? Don't have edit access. Okay. Still struggling with the way this is. So asked to be an editor. So I want everyone to be able to edit. Yes, yes, yes. Accept all. Give them access. Yeah, it's okay. Mhm. Let me do that. Let me do that. Try to change the share again so that everyone who has the link is an editor. That's what we wanted. All right, now I see people are able to put it in there. So great. If you see me turning away from the camera, it's because I'm looking at the screen that you're writing on instead of the screen that my notes are on. I need to find ways to practice to get more comfortable with public speaking or presenting. Good. I love the way they use these names, you know, adventurous aardvark. I always laugh when I see that. Again, just you can pick any one of these to respond to. 1, 2, all of them, whatever you choose. Thank you, Joseph. I think I did that right now. So I think anyone with a link should be able to get in and edit. I don't actually work with Google Docs very much, which is probably obvious. Struggling is a part of public speaking. Practicing is a part of getting better. These are great. Really doing a great job flipping the script here. I was really curious to see what people were going to say about, I already know everything I need to know. I've heard people say that. I've been teaching 20 years. I know everything there is to know about teaching. I think, you know, I've been doing this way more than 20 years and have made a scholarly and life commitment to teaching and learning. And I sure as heck don't know everything there is to know about teaching. No one knows everything that there is to know about any field of endeavor. There's always new things to learn. I'm always happy to learn something new. I don't know everything yet, I would say. There's always ways to learn and ways to grow in my job. I don't know about some of the financial tools we use, but I can go on LinkedIn Learning or UC Learning Center to better educate myself. Great. Where are we in time? We're doing well. So again, you know, now that you have access to this, you can take a look at what people said, get some ideas about how we go about sort of flipping the script. And I'm going to move on with my presentation while you're continuing to work on that, and feel free to keep adding to that as you wish. So again, other ways for us to flip the script. Oh, let me say one more thing before I move on this one. At first, some of these things may sound very artificial. You know, I'm not a math person yet, but I could study and learn more. It may seem very artificial. It's like those self-confidence things where you stand and look in the mirror and you say these things. But it is going to be, it may be awkward at first, but once you get in the habit of doing it, then you really start hearing when you're using fixed mindset language. And then it starts to become second nature to say, geez, this is really difficult right now, but I can get some help. I can get, you know, one of the things she talks about is every good whatever, it's an acronym. And one part of the acronym is, every good student has friends over. That's the acronym. It's an acrostic. And the support from others is the friends over part of the acrostic. So getting support from others. We see this with students all the time, that where they feel like if they go to the tutoring center, or they go to the writing center, that means they're not very good. What they don't understand is the students they're looking at and saying they're acing the course and they're doing outstanding work, they're probably the ones that are spending the most time in the tutoring center and the writing center. That getting support from others is how you excel. So again, how do we flip that script? So first of all, by setting clear and measurable goals, SMART goals you've probably heard about. Not just a list of tasks that I have to do, but goals. And when I'm creating those goals, there should be at least one learning goal on how I want to grow or do a task better, you know, learn how to do some new thing that would enhance my current job and improve my overall resume so that I have more advancement potential. And try not to feel offended by criticism from a manager, even if they're terrible at giving feedback. Just say, okay, that's on them, but what can I do with this feedback that can get me better at my job? What can I learn from it? And not everybody's good at giving feedback. I get that. Sometimes people say things in ways that are offensive. So you kind of have to allow yourself to be offended. And then once you've thought about it for a while, take the feedback in, see what's valid and what isn't, what can you learn from it and how you can improve from it. And be confident that you may have to accomplish when you have to accomplish a new task, you may feel a little insecure. We all do. So don't think I'll never succeed, but be confident that I will learn some new skills, and those skills will only benefit me wherever I end up in my career. So another thing that you can do is opt for task or job rotation. So you've got somebody in your unit says, hey, I'm struggling this project. Can anybody pitch in and lend a hand? A lot of people are like, no, the last thing I need is more work. Sometimes that's a great opportunity to expand your skills, learn more about what that other person does. And if possible, even like, okay, they're going to be out on vacation for a week. Could you cover? Talk to your manager, your supervisor. You know, I'd love to be able to cover so-and-so when they're out on vacation next week to get a much better understanding of what they do. So much can be learned from job rotation. And I know here at the School of Medicine, we don't do that nearly enough. And then embrace new tasks actions, tactics, strategies. Consider them and try to think about them as experiments that are leading to new insights, rather than stuff that must lead to success. Oftentimes people are a little nervous about embracing something new because they feel like if they make a mistake, they're going to be criticized. But we pilot things all the time. It's like, this is something that we're just trying. Let's see how it goes. That's the attitude that we want to see, both from supervisors and staff that report to them. Seek mentorship, either formally or informally. Find out if there are mentorship programs available to you through the UC that you can join. or find individuals who can help you grow. If you belong to a professional society, they may have a mentoring group or mentoring circles. Some of them, I'm in one right now that meets virtually. So it's, people from all over the country are in that circle, and it's wonderful to get insights from others. A lot of people think that mentoring always has to be one-on-one. So, gee, I don't want to ask, the chair of this department. I know how busy she is. But there are sometimes groups within your professional societies where people have volunteered, and you might have a mentoring group rather than just one-on-one mentoring. There's all kinds of mentoring opportunities out there. And then make sure you take time to celebrate your success. Even if someone else isn't acknowledging it, you need to acknowledge it, because that's part of growth mindset if you think about it, right? Gee, I wasn't sure I could do this, but look at what I accomplished. Wasn't that great? Buy yourself lunch or something to celebrate how well you did something. Try not to focus just on the end result, but what you learned. Yeah, that was a rough ride, but I learned so much doing that, and I did make such a big difference doing that. Seek out challenges. It's easy to stick with what we know. It's our comfort zone. And we're human beings. We don't like being outside of our comfort zone. Why? Because it's uncomfortable, right? So true growth, though, comes from stepping outside your comfort zone. Whenever students say to me, this is so hard, I always say, you say that like it's a bad thing. It's a good thing. Wouldn't it be a waste of your time if you were in my class and only did things you already knew how to do? What a waste of your time and money. The fact that it's hard means it's something new, and it's an opportunity to learn and an opportunity to grow. So, employees with a growth mindset actively seek out challenges. They volunteer for projects outside their area of expertise so that they can learn new skills and network with others who are also in a growth mindset. Ask for feedback. If you're not getting it, ask for it. Growth-minded employees don't shy away from constructive feedback. They want it. They actively seek it out. They view it as a tool for improvement and actually use it to become better. If you're unsure how you're performing and you're not sure how your supervisor thinks about your performance, ask them. And don't take it personally, but see it as an opportunity to improve. This is a big one for me, of course, because I'm an education person and I believe very strongly in lifelong learning. It's my entire world. So growth doesn't stop after completing your formal education or your training for a new position. To succeed in a constantly evolving institution, a constantly evolving world, you need to commit to lifelong learning. There's a cliche in medical education, it's become a cliche, that once we graduate students, everything they know is already obsolete, which in some ways is true because, obviously new research is coming out every day, new drugs, new diseases. You don't have to think very long ago to realize suddenly we're in the middle of an epidemic that nobody had heard of before, including people in medicine. So it's like suddenly the world's changing. You've got to learn new things. You have to adapt. And that is true of any field. So whether it's through online courses, we're very fortunate here at the School of Medicine at UCR that we have access to LinkedIn Learning. I'm pretty sure most of the UCs have that, and it's a wonderful tool. You've got one of my favorite benefits from working at the UC is access to the library, not just the one on your campus, but the entire UC system. A lot of their content is digitally available. So, there are books out there. You can attend conferences if you have the ability to do that. You can, seek out training, seek out opportunities, consistently build new skills. It helps you stay ahead of the curve. I had a faculty member once say to me, well, I guess I'm going to have to learn how to do this. Otherwise, I'm going to become a dinosaur. And that was when online learning was new. But yeah, that's how old I am. That was a new thing. To cultivate resistance. Setbacks are inevitable. It's going to happen. It's how you respond to them that matters. So if you get fixed on, I have to do this right, I have to come first, I need to get that medal, you'll always try things, you will only try things that keep you able to do that. Here's one example from my own life. when I was in undergraduate, I was in a group of people. I was on the debate team, and there was one person there who was really smart. He'd been the valedictorian of his high school. And his parents told them if he graduated with a 4-point average, they would give him a new car. So he never took a single course in 4 years of college that he didn't know he could ace. He didn't take a single course that was challenging. And I thought, wow, what a waste. What a waste of someone who's so smart could have taken like the most challenging courses. Even if they couldn't always get an A, wouldn't that have been better than taking what we used to refer to in my day as cake courses, meaning it was a piece of cake, and wasting his time there just so we could get that new car, right? So that, again, cultivate that idea that I don't have to always come first or always get that A+ or always get that pat on the back, but I've stretched myself doing it. So where do we see it? I'm so interested that you brought up our UCR principles of community, because it's baked into this. So again, one of the principles of community is encouraging respect and lifelong learning. Thank you very much. So, this comes in place at staff mentoring, especially of new hires, being able to learn new software systems and given the time and the resources to train on those systems, adapting to remote and hybrid workflows, which I know some people are back 100%. Other people are still working hybrid schedules where they're on campus sometime and working from home other times. And how do we address that? Addressing new budget challenges, which I'm sure everybody at every UC is facing. I know we are, about budget cuts and concerns about even deeper cuts happening with NIH funding and other resources of income that colleges are facing right now. So again, all of those are growth mindset in action here at UCR, and I suspect at all the UCs. So if you're in a leadership position, and pretty much everyone is, because you're leading, maybe leading in your one small area, but you're still leading. So one of the ways, if you're in a supervisory position and you're leading and have direct reports, is creating a learning culture. Continuous learning is, again, crucial to focusing and fostering growth mindset. But it has to be modeled from the top. So employees need to see their leaders actively engaging in continuous lifelong learning, whether that's through workshops, taking courses, reading books, going to conferences, getting certifications. You can sort of share what you're doing so that you're creating a culture where you're learning and you're encouraging people who work with you and part of your team and your team members to learn. And then consider offering personalized learning paths. Not all people learn in the same way or at the same pace. So one-size-fits-all training programs sometimes don't bring the best results. Instead, are there different learning paths that cater more to the needs and interests of that individual? So again, if you're on the other side of that and you're not, you don't have any direct reports, that's a conversation you can have with your supervisor about, making suggestions. What would really help me is if I could go and do this and get the certificate or whatever. That is an opportunity to discuss that whole concept of growth and personalized learning. And I said before, you should celebrate your success. Absolutely true. You also want to celebrate your failures. So it's to normalize failure. Usually failure is viewed negatively. And I know some of my staff are in this, so I have to be careful what I say. But I always say the only people who don't make mistakes are people who aren't doing anything. So mistakes are things that happen. It's what you learn from them that counts. It's what you learn from them. So again, it's okay to have a failure, but what did you learn from that? What would you do differently next time? And embrace that feeling of vulnerability. Try to create safe spaces for people to make those mistakes and take risks. And pay attention to someone's mindset when hiring. Ask questions when you're hiring to see where they are on that spectrum. And only have a few minutes left, so I just want to touch on cultivating growth mindset in others before I open it up for questions. And I'm looking over here and I'm not seeing any questions in the Q&A box, so I guess I'll just keep going. So you're improving with a lot of practice is a great growth mindset statement. Asking someone, what did you learn from that? Especially if it was a successful endeavor or even when it wasn't. What did you learn from that? What would you do differently next time? You know, somebody's not quite aced something yet. Instead of saying, no, that's wrong, go back and do it over again, you can say, it's not quite there yet, but you're really getting closer. Here's some tweaks that I would like you to make. What might you do differently next time? I said that one already. And how can you motivate the team? That's another one. So again, if you're in the process of giving feedback, either to your direct reports or up the ladder, praise effort and strategies, not just outcomes. So I appreciate your persistence in tackling this challenge. Your effort is evident. I was just telling someone this morning, once upon a time, a former boss of mine came up to me. I was doing this conference and he said, you have really revolutionized this conference and it has not gone unnoticed. So again, think about the growth mindset there. The conference was here, you brought it to here, and I noticed. That's a wonderful thing to hear from your supervisor. Try to avoid labels like saying things, oh, you're so good, you're just a natural, you're our math person, or you're our people person. Avoid those kinds of labels. Be specific about growth. You've tried a variety of approaches to this task, and that's great. What did you find most helpful from those approaches? Stress progress towards goals. You made great progress. Your strategies are paying off. Be forward looking. Let's discuss what worked well, what we can learn from this experience to improve our approach next time. And again, I have staff who are in this meeting, but they know this already about me, is after we do a big event, we always debrief. And I always want to know what went well and what might we do differently next time. It doesn't mean that the event was bad. Usually they were great events. But what do we learn from it? And how do we learn from that and do even better next time? So again, fostering a positive work environment. In order for growth mindset to really take hold within your team, you need a positive and supportive work climate. And that way, everyone feels comfortable in their environment, and then they feel free to take risks. They feel free to make mistakes and admit their mistakes, and they feel free to continue their learning journey. But if they feel like they're constantly being criticized, if they're afraid that anytime I do something wrong, I'm going to get a nasty email from someone, that is not a great workplace culture. That doesn't really foster growth mindset. Again, encourage reflection. We talked about that one. Cultivating a learning culture. Encouraging, one that's on here that I didn't talk about earlier was encouraging collaborations. So again, one of the most valuable strategies for building a growth mindset within a team is the team works well as a group. So to help this along, you can encourage open communication channels and shared learning. A former place of employment did this, and I thought it was great, is that when you went to a conference, when you came back, you gave a little mini report on what you had learned at that conference. So, because not everybody could go, but everybody could benefit from the fact that you had gone. And I'd like to see more of that kind of thing here. And we already talked about failures and mistakes. So I was going to do breakout rooms, but unfortunately we're out of time. And I do see there's a couple of questions in the question room. So what if an organization as a whole resists feedback? Ideas get shut down by direct supervisors before it can be presented to leadership. That's a challenge. I admit that. And sometimes the work culture just does not support growth mindset strategies. What I would recommend is find allies who will listen to your ideas. And, it's political suicide to go behind your boss's back. So I wouldn't advise just going directly, but find avenues where your voice can be heard. So maybe you're sitting in on a meeting where leadership are there. Can you make a suggestion in that context? And if none of that works, you can still use growth mindset strategies to improve yourself. You may not be able to influence others. That may not be possible. And if you're in that kind of work environment, consider where you might plant yourself, where you would be more successful. But I think that, yes, if you're in a toxic work environment, sometimes all you're doing is trying to protect yourself. It's hard to do anything more. Is it normal for someone to have both fixed mindset and growth mindset? Absolutely. It's absolutely normal. Most of us have fixed in one area and growth in other areas. So depending on the circumstance, when I'm not confident, I might say, I use that example of I don't have the tech gene. I've actually said, I don't have the craft gene. I've said that before. I can't put together some kind of craft project. I could if I really made the effort, but I usually more growth mindset when it's about work to support your team. Absolutely. But again, the reason that I call this flipping the script is recognizing when you're using that fixed mindset language, even if it's inside your own head, and trying to get in the habit of flipping that. Catch yourself doing it and try to flip that. And I know our time is up. I thank you all for spending your time with me. So I will just leave you with this. If you want to learn more, there's a great video. I'm not going to play it. It's going to start on its own. That Carol Dweck did a TED Talk. It's great. And that's her book. And I put the QR code for her book. And I will put the link to the TED Talk in the chat. And it started whether I wanted it to or not. Thank you all again. Let me grab the code and put it in the chat before I log off. Maybe it's already closed. I don't know. Hold on just 1 second. Those of you who are interested in having the link to her TED Talk, it's only about 10 minutes and it's really great. And there it is.
Well, thank you, everyone. We hope you enjoyed your time with us today. As you know, our goal is to keep the UCR Staff Conference 100% free to attend. We couldn't do that without the generous support of our sponsors. I'm sorry. UCR Staff Assembly, LEAD, UCR Human Resources, Employee and Organizational Development, and the School's First Credit Union. As a reminder, the conference will be uploaded to the UCR Staff Assembly YouTube channel. A few quick reminders. Our in-person closing session takes place on Wednesday, March 26th at 2 p.m. If you haven't done so already, please RSVP on the conference website so we have a more than accurate count of who will be attending. So you can reserve your spot. This is open to UCR staff only as it is in person. Staff assembly elections will open on April 14th, so please vote. I will put the link in the chat for you. You can sign up for our EOD listserv as well, so you can see what trainings we have upcoming this upcoming spring and throughout the rest of the next academic year. You can also, something that's been being told across all the conferences is we have the Franklin Covey All Access Pass. It is a cost of $395 to access the AAP online platform and live instructor-led Franklin Covey courses offered by Employee and Organizational Development through December 31st. You can enroll to that through the UC Learning Center. We are raffling off 20 seats at the end of the conference, and unfortunately, the raffle is limited to UCR employees. Thank you again for joining us, and we hope to see you at the next session. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, Erica, for your help. Bye-bye.